Good evening, everyone. We got Power Punchers episode 2, episode dose. Hit that like button as you come in. Introduce yourself. Shout out A-Rod in the chat. Shout out Andre Rodriguez. Good evening to everyone. Yes. Hit that like button. Hit us up in the chat. We're going to get it popping, man. It ended up being an interesting weekend of boxing, D-Style. Interesting weekend of boxing.
Pretty interesting.
How you feel, man? How you feel coming off that weekend?
Well, a couple of upset, a couple of unexpected turns and events, and a lot of good, a lot of bad, and a good amount of ugly. But overall, can't complain. There was a problem with counter programming, but I'd rather have that problem than no boxing at all. So we could deal with it. We're in the age of DVR and watching, replays on our phones. So counter programming isn't as bad as it used to be. But hey, I enjoyed it overall.
It's not as bad, and it was also as good. It was also good that the Munguia card was earlier in the day, at least for me. I know it was probably an issue with getting people in the stands earlier in the night because they had a lot of empty seats. But other than that, man, I enjoyed the day. I was glad they did that card earlier, and they did have some counter programming. But like you said, you can get around that this day and age. And man, it's good to be on the HCP network, man. And give us a rundown of all the shows that are going to be on this network because you got some good things going with the HCP brand.
Well, absolutely. I mean, next week, Power Punchers will be on Wednesday, just FYI to everybody out there. But Uncensored will be on Mondays, but we already have Mano a Mano with Maestro and Kenny. And then, of course, we'll have, myself and Chief Funky on Uncensored. That's on Chief Funky channel. HCP podcast every Tuesday on my channel, and you guys should tune in for that. And of course, Al Chile with A-Rod after that. Wednesdays, Women Crushing It Wednesdays with Christine.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, us, right? The Power Punchers. And Thursdays is the Round Table. Okay, the Round Table. And, of course, Round Table Overtime on Masters after that. And probably more stuff to come. I mean, there's more days, other time slots and stuff like that, but more stuff to come. So shout out to, the HCP family. Shout out to the boxing, family out there.
Yep. Shout out HCP. Shout out Rudolph in the chat. Our guy Maestro in the chat. He had the show earlier, and he'll be on his channel Thursday night as well with his show. No Pal in there. Run PMC in the building. Salute. But let's get into it, man. Our guy Inoue, he did his thing Saturday night. Beautiful punch placement. And that's what gets me the most excited about this guy is the punch placement. We'll talk about that. But what did you think overall about Inoue's performance? The monster from Japan. I loved it.
Well, you said it. Punch placement. And this guy is probably the best in the game at punch placement. Doesn't waste shots. Mm-hmm. He's very efficient. And by efficiency, I'm not even talking like, he landed 50% or more of his punches. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about where he lands the punches like matter. You know what I mean? They're not like throwaway punches. What a beast. And what a way to keep landing that perfect body shot in the same spot, which has to be the most annoying feeling if you're his opponent. Because you're already aching there. You're already feeling it. Then he hits you in that same spot again.
D-Style somehow logged off there, but I'll catch up with him. There he is right there.
Sorry about that. So as I was saying before StreamYard really interrupted me, keeps landing the shots in the same spot, man. That has to be grueling. I predicted a first round knockout, bro, and I was really close.
I predicted second. It reminds me of fantasy boxing days. Like I was close to that hat trick, right?
Yeah. And then I was like, I just knew it was in the third. I just knew it. Like when the dude went back to his corner, like, man, you barely survived, bro. Like, I'm surprised he didn't just go with haymakers because it was his only shot against Inoue at that point. You might as well throw for broke and hope you catch him with some because you're just not going to beat him by being methodical. Not right now. And you know what? The other thing about Inoue, he's gotten better since the Donaire fight.
Mm-hmm.
That fight made him a better fighter because before, Inoue was a lot like Golovkin was earlier in his career, a lot like fighters that are okay with getting hit a little bit because they know it's not going to do anything to them. You know, like they know if they go tit for tat, it's in their favor because they're the power puncher. You know what I mean? Especially Inoue. But now Inoue is not going tit for tat with people. He's not like, okay, I'll exchange with you since I'm the power puncher. I'm going to knock you out. He's not even doing that now at all. Like his ability to feint, he does use his offense, his defense, but not only, he's really good at anticipating and not allowing the opponent.
You're cutting out again. Let me try something here. D-Style's cutting out again. But anyway, Inoue, to me, what was fun, and D-Style, you can come back on, try to get that working. But what was impressive about Inoue to me is I liked how he came out patient in that first round. He came out patient. And that's D-Style coming back on again. Let me try to add him. There you are.
Sure. I don't know what that is. I don't know what's going on, to be honest.
But what I was saying was what impressed me about him was I noticed the same thing. That first round, he came out a little patient, smart boxing. He was showing Des Moranis, the southpaw, a little respect. Didn't walk into shots. But also, when he had him hurt with that liver shot, he knew exactly where to place his punches after. And it's hard to land that same shot because the guy is guarding that position, right? He's guarding that spot. So in order to get back to that spot, and Des Moranis is a crafty vet in his own right. He's a legit top 10 guy at the weight class. So he's guarding that spot. But in order to get him to stray away from that spot, you have to throw punches somewhere else. So he's throwing punches back upstairs. He's throwing punches to the other side of the body and getting him away from that spot. And then he lands the same shot 2 more times, D-Style. 2 more times. All right. So
in the same
that's
spot.
what's impressive about Inoue. And it's really ironic that Tank Davis was talking about it before the fight. I don't know if you caught him on Ellie Sackback's channel. He was talking about how big of a fan he is of Inoue because of the punch placement. That's one thing that the boxers notice about him is his punch placement. To me, it's him and Canelo. And it's once again ironic that these two guys are the top of the pound for pound rankings right now, and we'll get into that later on, is the punch placement. Separates them from other fighters. Canelo can land uppercuts and body shots from the outside, right? Which they teach you not to throw those shots from the outside in the gyms. But these guys are so good at punch placement, and they have such great technique that they can land those shots from the outside. Then they can fight on the inside as well. But the punch placement is what separates this guy from a lot of other fighters, not named Canelo. Because those two guys right now in the game are the 2 top at punch placement, right?
Well, I would include Crawford there.
Crawford's up there.
But aside from that, man, these guys have here's what Inoue has. And a lot of fighters fight in patterns, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Inoue does not fight in a pattern. Like there's no like a sequence that you see in him. He's very reactionary to whatever his opponent is doing. You know, if he throws a right hand, like what he does next depends on what you do. It's not like a pre-coded like most fighters have. They're going to throw the right hand and they're going to follow it up with a hook or something like already in their head. You know what I mean? They work on combinations and then they throw those combinations. In a way, it's not like that, man. And there's a handful. He's not the only one, but there's a handful of fighters that are like that. But the other thing, man, and I seen like footage like on Twitter especially, and some on Instagram of how they compare him to like Joe Louis. Mm-hmm. You know, and I know that could be like a very strange comparison, but it really isn't. Like he does a lot of things very similar to Joe Louis, like and they'll show it like side by side, the way he sets up a counter, the way like this is a fighter who's improving. He's still young, believe it or not, and he's got a long ways to go, man. Like
he's still young. That's scary.
Yeah,
that's scary that he's probably just entering his prime, if he's there yet. He's just entering his prime. And somebody's in the Boxing Dialogue. Shout out Boxing Dialogue. Shout out JC. Shout out G Funky in there as well. But Boxing Dialogue said he's ready for him to move up to 122. To me, he's still got unfinished business at 118 because you have a lot of interesting things going on at the top of 118, right? You have now Donaire versus Casimero, all Philippine showdown in August for that belt. So let's say Donaire, who I think wins that fight, gets 2 belts. Inoue has 2 belts. Now look what we got, right? Now we got undisputed at 118. That's what I'm talking about right there. And Inoue could quite possibly become undisputed by the end of the year, early next year. All right. So we could have another undisputed champion in boxing. So, I mean, to me, Inoue has unfinished business at 118. A lot going on for Inoue at 118. So I don't see him stepping up to 122 yet. Inoue is a guy who's special. He's a special guy. And let me see. I don't know what D-Style's got going on over here. Remove. You good?
Yeah, brother. I'm still listening. If it happens, just keep it moving. But I don't know what's going on with it.
But no, I think Donaire is still good enough to have a test with Inoue. I think he's good enough to beat Casimero. Special fighter still at this point at 38 and a half years old. Two-handed fighter at this point in his career.
Right.
A lot popping at 118. So Inoue has unfinished business there, but he is a guy I see that could move up to 122, move up to 126 eventually. I don't know where his ceiling is. I don't know if it's high enough to be at 130, but this guy's special. This guy is special. I already have him number 2 on my pound for pound list, and we'll get into pound for pound later. But what do you think about Donaire versus Casimero being announced in the whole picture at the top of 118?
Well, like here's the first thing, man. I don't understand why Rigondeaux took the step aside. From my understanding, Rigondeaux took step aside money.
Right.
All right. And look, at the end, I guess that's the easiest money anybody could ever make. But like Rigondeaux, like you're old, bro. Like you got no time left. I think he should have fought Casimero. I don't think he should have stepped aside. I'm not saying yet.
And he can line himself up for a rematch with Donaire, right? Because if he wins that fight, Donaire wants that strap. Unless they have something worked out to where he can get step aside money and then he gets the winner of Donaire Casimero. But Donaire has expressed that he wants Inoue again. That's what he's expressed.
I mean, if you're Rigondeaux, you beat Casimero and then you get Inoue.
Right.
Like you know what I mean? Like, but either way, I like the fight though. I like Casimero versus Donaire. And 2 Filipino fighters, you know what I mean? And I think it's going to be. I think the press conferences that should be interesting. There might be some trash talk there on the lead up to that fight. We'll see how it goes, you know. But I'm favoring Donaire in that fight. Casimero is too open to get hit, and that's not something you want against Donaire. It just isn't. Donaire's hook is deadly, and he has a right hand now too. So
Donaire, but I'll tell you what. I don't see anybody messing with Inoue in and around 118 right now. I don't see anybody messing with that guy. I mean, he truly is special. That was quite the performance against. Like I said, that's just not a can he stepped in there with. Des Moranis has some skills, and we talked about it before the fight. Des Moranis, the things that he does well, plays right into Inoue's hands. That's the issue that Des Moranis had coming into this fight. But it's still a great performance, especially considering other performances that we've seen recently. Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, and then we'll talk about Charlo in a little while. That was another disappointing performance in my opinion. So you still have to get in there and destroy these guys when they're lined up, right? And that's what Inoue does. 21-0 at this point, 18 knockouts. He's not only winning, he's winning in an entertaining fashion. He's over in America now. Casuals are going to start to notice.
Right.
But do you think the weight thing is going to be a problem with casuals? Does he have to do something where he has to get creative and move all the way up to 130 and then try to do that thing where he's fighting bigger guys to get the entertainment value as far as the casuals go? Because you have a lot of people, I mean, let's be honest, you have a lot of boxing fans who don't pay attention to anything under 130.
That's the truth historically, right? Unless it's a special fighter, people paid attention to Salvador Sanchez, for example. You know, it was a national news story here when he passed and stuff like that. But it's very like Nassim Hamed, Barrera Morales. You know what I mean? Nobody knew who Pacquiao was until he beat Barrera. Like, you know, so yes, there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. You know, as far as that goes, but you know, it's going to be a hardcore fan. Like the everything sub 130 is definitely belongs to the hardcore fans. The fighters don't act like divas. Fights get done. Like we get more best fighting the best. We get you know what I mean. That's just sub 130, and the reason it's like that is because I mean to these guys that $500,000 payday is a big payday to them. You know,
And they have to fight the best in order to get that payday.
there you go. And
So you get
yep.
naturally better fights because you get better matchups. One, between the top fighters, and number two, you get naturally more punch output with the smaller guys, more explosive fights. So it's really a shame that a lot of people don't pay attention to these smaller guys because this is where a lot of the stuff is happening. Shout out No Pause, shout out Combat Sports Media, everybody in the chat. Hit that like button as y'all come in, hit the alerts, all that good stuff. So yeah, I like Inoue. We're gonna wrap back around to Inoue because I want to talk pound for pound and where you got him in the pound for pound rankings in a little while. But what'd you think about Munguia over there in your hometown of El Paso against Zarameta?
Well, I didn't learn anything new about Munguia. That's how I feel. It looked like Munguia, fought like Munguia, very basic. You know, offensively is kind of doing the right things, but still needs some work defensively. But this offense is his defense. Is you know, his uppercuts are a little more crisp. His hooks are a little more crisp. Like his combinations are getting a little better, but you know. He's probably gone from horrible speed to like average speed or something, you know, like some improvements there, but a lot of tweaks needed with Munguia. But I think at this point, I think he is who he is. Uh, Good win, but
D Styles cutting out again. But I'll say this, man. As far as Munguia, his stock rose this weekend. The reason I say his stock rose is because let me get D Style back on there. That internet over there in El Paso. Y'all got
well,
a
I
dust
don't know,
storm or
brother.
something?
I don't think it's the internet because everything. I think it's the StreamYard. I don't know
StreamYard,
what's going
yeah.
on.
It's probably StreamYard messing around. But what I was saying is Munguia. His stock, everything you just said is true about him. I think he is who he is. I don't know how much he's improved. 37-0, 30 knockouts. He's doing something right, obviously. But his stock rose because of the Charlo performance against Montiel, because Munguia viciously knocked out Montiel early in their fight. All right. So he's shown that he can beat somebody better than supposedly the top guy at 160 beat him. All right. You have a comparative opponent there. Not only that, he fits in well at the top of 160 because it's not a strong division. All right. And he had another common opponent with Triple G, Zarameta, the guy he just beat. And he beat him in a similar fashion that Triple G just beat him. All right. So to me, Munguia showed well over the weekend and his stock rose, even though, like you said, he didn't show us anything different. I don't know what he's improved on, et cetera, et cetera. Still, his stock rose. Still, right now, he's probably a top 5 middleweight, if we're being honest. Because it's not a strong division, D-Style.
It's not, and we still don't know, Calix, like what. There's other factors in fighters that play a big role, right? Like determination and heart and you know what I mean? Like the things we can't measure like by just watching them. We have to see them go through obstacles, see what they're made of, right? And something tells me like there's something like an extra, I don't want to call it a gear, but something a little extra that, you know, that Munguia has to offer whenever that obstacle comes. You know, like if he's down on the cards, he's going to keep applying pressure. He's going to maybe take 2 to land 1, but he's not going to stop coming. And there's that extra element that we haven't yet experienced with Munguia. Like maybe his greatest strength, we may not actually see it until someone gets it out of him, you know, because it's not athletic ability, it's not technical prowess, it's not ring IQ. And not that he doesn't have some of all that, he does, but I'm talking about like something just tells me this kid has something to offer when even if he's behind, when he, like that determination factor that we just don't know what a fighter's made of until they're put in that position, you know?
I think Munguia matches up well with a lot of guys at the top of 160. I don't know if he'll ever be a top 20 pound for pound guy or anything like that, but I think he's a guy who's going to make for entertaining fights because of his style. Another thing we got to look out for is what happens when he gets in there and trades with another big puncher at 160. Because we've seen him take shots from big punchers at 154, but not at 160 yet, right? So what happens when he gets in there, if he gets in there with a Triple G or somebody like, or Charlo, because Charlo can punch. We got to give it to Charlo. He can punch. And even though lackluster performance that we'll talk about later, still a guy who a lot of people consider the top dog at 160. But how do you see this question right here? How do you see him matching up with guys like Derevyanchenko and Liam Williams? I think he matches up.
I got to be honest with you, Calix. Derevyanchenko, first of all, should have been campaigning at 154 until he outgrew that division.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's too small for Munguia. Like, I think Munguia takes him out, to be honest. Derevyanchenko, I think, fought the fight of his life against Triple G, and I don't think he's ever been the same since that fight.
I'm starting to see more of people counting Triple G after that Charlo performance over the weekend, and we'll get into that in a minute as well. Actually, let's just get into it now. I mean, I saw you do a video. I had similar thoughts, and I think a lot of people are out there with similar thoughts. Just wanted more of Charlo. When I did my prediction video, D-Style, I had Charlo winning this thing by middle round stoppage, somewhere around that, especially after I watched the Munguia fight with Montiel a while back and did even more breakdown of Montiel as a fighter. He just leaves himself open. And Charlo just wasn't pulling his punches quick enough to land those counter shots, showing a lot of respect. He started to fade late. It was definitely one of those performances where you're like, man, we might be overvaluing this guy at 160. We might be overvaluing this guy as far as trying to put him on pound for pound lists and whatnot. What did you think about this performance from Charlo?
I was surprised, to be honest with you. Like that surprised me. I thought this was going to be an easy outing for Charlo. I felt that Montiel is pretty easy to hit, and I think we saw that in the first half of the fight. And I felt like if you're getting hit by a guy like Charlo like that, you're going good night. But I think the one good thing Montiel did, if you notice, he avoided ducking low a lot to get hit by that uppercut. You know, sure, he was getting lit up, throughout the fight. But if you avoid that big punch as much as possible, you could stay in it. And I think. And it goes back to what I was saying about Munguia a little bit ago. Like, Montiel showed us that he's got something to offer that goes beyond what we see with our eyes. That heart, determination, will to win, will to never stop coming. And I think, Charlo was having a hard time dealing with that. Like, he was having a hard time dealing with the fact that he hit this guy with everything he's got. And it's that old saying, he threw everything but the kitchen sink. And the guy was still standing. And Montiel hurt him in the 8th round, bro.
Mm-hmm.
He hurt him in the 8th. And Charlo was hanging on for dear life. And I feel like he was just waiting. He couldn't wait for that fight to end.
Yeah.
It's what I got out of it, And I think Montiel left this fight with a lot of confidence. I think he's going to be very confident after this. And he's earned himself another payday, man, to get in there with another either champion, contender. Montiel's up there. I think you could argue he's a top 10 middleweight after this.
He's earned himself a little gatekeeper type vibe, too, to where he's going to get those gatekeeper fights. But, yeah, I think Charlo definitely expected to blast Montiel out early. And when that didn't happen, yeah, you saw a little bit of that. And give Charlo a little credit as well that Montiel is a puncher. All right, so at least he's got that. He is a puncher. So he wasn't just knocked down by a can, all right, or not knocked down, but hurt by a can. So the real issue I have with Charlo is you start to see it after the fight, right? It's like right after the fight, I'm seeing interviews with him, and he's saying stuff like it's like the Benavidez when he was saying Benavidez had to get the vaccine to fight him. He's saying the same thing about Boo Boo Andrade, some similar things that Boo Boo Andrade has to fight Montiel now in order to get to him. It's like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Like you looked average against Montiel. Now Andrade has to fight Montiel. Andre fought guys on Montiel's level and won those fights. So why not just make the fight now? And Boo Boo is calling him out like this doesn't make any sense. He wants to fight as well. So that's the stuff I don't like seeing about Charlo. It's like he wants to call these guys out and make it look like he wants to fight those guys. But then when it comes down to it, he doesn't really want to fight those guys. That's the vibe that I get. Because I think he wants to make it look like he wants the Canelo fight, but he doesn't really want it. Same thing with Triple G. Same thing with Andre. I think he's very content with fighting guys on Montiel's level, making a bunch of money and continuing on that way. And then saying, oh, poor me. I tried to make these fights. They don't want them, et cetera, et cetera. Is that the vibe you're getting to?
I definitely get a vibe where I don't think I don't want to say he doesn't want the fights, but it's almost but he wants them under his conditions.
Yes.
He wants to be the guy that calls the shots, and he wants it to happen when he feels like it's good for him, and he doesn't care about these other guys. But
like I saw another quote where he said, "I want to get Canelo down to Houston." It's like, no, Canelo tells you where the fight's going to be, and he tells you what weight it's going to be at.
Yeah,
and he tells you what
Canelo's at
glove size
168, bro. He's at 168.
He's not going to 160. Charlo's not going to 168. He's going to stay at 160, and he's going to call Canelo out from 160, and he's not going to get the fight that way. And that's the frustrating thing is Charlo actually, it seems like he has talent, but it doesn't seem like he wants to progress in his career in that way. I don't know, man. It's frustrating to watch.
It's definitely frustrating to watch. And look, I don't, as far as Andre to go, the truth is Andre was the first one to duck Charlo. Andre admitted to it.
Right.
On Ringside reported to Joe Beebe, he said, I wasn't going to fight him back then. There was no money for the fight. Why would I fight him? Look how much bigger it is now. Right. But it doesn't mean that Charlo's not the one avoiding it now. Like the tables can turn. And look, at the end of the day, as a fan, I just want to see the unification. I just want to see these best guys fight the best. And what would make sense for Charlo right now is a Triple G fight. Triple G is older. Triple G is up there in age. And I think it's a 50-50 fight. But if he wins that fight, like in other words, if you fight Triple G, no one's going to pressure you to fight Andrade. Like, you know what I mean? And no one's going to be on you like, why aren't you fighting Andrade if you're going to fight Triple G? It would keep you real, right? So it gets the Andrade pressure off of you. You fight a good opponent, right? And it's a unification. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. You know what I mean? And it's a legitimate win if you win.
Yeah, I agree. But after seeing what you saw this past weekend, after shuffling, let's shuffle it up. Who would you see as a top middleweight, like top three? I mean, if you could give top three, because I see some comments. You're starting to see comments. Triple G is still a guy at 160. Triple G is still a guy at 160. Is he? Because I see if Triple G, I've seen Triple G put on performances like Charlo just did, and everyone's saying he was exposed in those fights, et cetera, et cetera. And Charlo doesn't seem to be getting that same criticism through the boxing world as a whole, from what I've seen. But I'm starting to see that creep back in that even at 39 years old, Triple G is still the king at middleweight, which could have some validity because he hasn't lost since the second Canelo fight, although he hasn't done much. But even at 39 years old, I'm hearing he's going to fight this summer, then he's going to fight Murata in December, which would be a good fight. I hope that happens. But there are other good fights as well. But who do you see as like the top three at middleweight?
Man, this division's so wide open, bro. Like it's for the taking, in my opinion. But I gotta say, after this performance by Charlo, it's got to bring him down a peg, right? You can't keep him where he's at.
Who would you move up though? Triple G?
It would have to be Triple G. I mean, until proven otherwise at this point.
because I've seen Munguia as high as 4 in the rankings. So that just tells you how weak the division
I would
is.
go
That
Triple G, Charlo, Andrade, 1 to 3. Munguia
yeah,
4.
that makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Derenchenko
Munguia
5.
4. Yeah. But that just shows you how weak the division is right now. It's not a strong division, one of the weaker divisions in boxing, and that's unfortunate. Being that middleweight is one of the sexy divisions in boxing, that's unfortunate. But it is what it is. It's almost like somebody's going to become number one by default at this point until they start mixing it up with each other. But hopefully they start doing that. But I thought I was disappointed with Charlo. Yes, Triple G does have the best resume at 160, but I don't know if that makes him the best fighter right now at 160. 147 is not an entertaining division right now either. Yeah, he's up there in the rankings right now, top 5. But who was your most disappointing fighter of the weekend? Is the next question I have. And hit that like button as y'all come in, by the way. I got 3 guys on the list: Charlo, Chavez Jr., and Beck the Bully. Who is your most disappointing? I got my answer, but who's yours?
By far, and it's not even close, Chavez Jr. By far, bro.
I didn't see the fight. What did I miss? Because I don't do the exhibitions, dude. I just don't do them.
Well,
And
first of all,
Chavez Jr.
bro, this was not an
exhibition?
exhibition, bro. This was an official fight for 8 rounds. This is not an exhibition.
Oh, it was an official fight?
It's an official fight, yes.
Wow.
It's not an exhibition.
Wow. So Anderson Silva is retiring 1-0 as a boxer, is what you're telling me?
No, Anderson was 2-1 as a boxer, but
he had 2 other fights? I didn't even know.
Yeah. So 2-1. So Chavez lost to a 2-1 boxer, bro. Like pretty much, you know. But here's the thing, man. Like even though Chavez quit his last fight and he quit against Jacobs, he quit against, like, he was winning like the first 2 rounds of Jacobs, and then once Jacobs started like piecing him apart, he quit. You know what I mean? Like, and then I don't even know the guy that made him, like,
a walking L.
Who's the dude that made him quit the last time? I don't even know who that dude is, right?
I don't know. I stopped following Chavez Jr. a while back.
Chavez Jr., and I want everybody to listen to me very closely, okay? Chavez Jr. disgraced his own disgrace. You know, like just imagine disgracing your disgrace. Like even your disgrace looks at you like, what the fuck? Right? So like as bad as everything he's done before, like this, it's bad enough losing, but to make Anderson Silva look like Muhammad Ali at times, it's kind of embarrassing. Okay,
did he really?
At times, I mean, not quite, but look. At the end of the day, it was an 8-round fight. I give Chavez 3 rounds. I give Anderson Silva 5. Okay, he gassed out after 3 rounds, bro. He was gassed. He had no energy, bro. Right? And he could barely hold his guard up. It was embarrassing to watch. His dad. And then not only that, bro, his younger brother, Omar Chavez, lost to Canelo's brother, right? so the Canelos show up. The Alvarezes show up. One of them beats up Omar Chavez, right? And then Anderson Silva beats Chavez Jr., and then Canelo gets in the ring and congratulates Anderson Silva in front of everybody. Right, embraces them. Just think about that, okay?
So poor
and
Chavez.
But the Owls didn't stop, bro. And then in the final round of Chavez Sr.'s exhibition, oh, by the way, he walked out to the ring. Chavez Jr. was not there. He was not invited to the ring walk, brother, for his dad's last fight, okay? But it doesn't stop there. The Owls don't stop, bro. And then in the last round of Chavez's career, right? This exhibition he has with Camacho Jr., he calls Canelo to the ring and asks Canelo to stand in his corner. He's like, I want you in my corner for my last round, right? And then he embraces Canelo and he says, this is the best Mexican fighter of this generation, probably ever. And then Canelo says, no, you're always going to be the best. And they hug and they embrace on Father's Day weekend, okay? The son that he wished he had. Canelo Alvarez, bro. And then the owls don't stop. On Father's Day, Chavez Sr. puts out a statement, and my sons are not going to train properly. I want them to retire.
Wow.
Called for his son to retire, bro. And you know what he said a couple weeks ago? Like somebody told him, "Hey, I heard you're a grandfather now, Chavez, right?" And he goes, "Yeah. I hope he lives up to his potential, not like my son." Like,
wow.
I mean, this is unbelievable, bro. Like the owls didn't stop. Like how many owls is this dude got to take? Like you, bro.
Somebody said he's a walking L. But so you telling me Chavez Sr. had a bad Father's Day weekend? Didn't have a good Father's Day weekend.
No, he embraced the Chavez Sr.
His
had a great
adopted
weekend.
son.
He embraced his real son, Canelo.
Yeah.
Right. He won his fight, right? And he told his fucking sons to just retire already. Right? He's like, if you guys aren't going to train properly, just retire. Okay?
So
Imagine
how Chavez Sr. look? He looked good?
all right. He looked better than his son.
He could probably beat his son easy, huh?
Probably, bro. I don't know. Like probably. Like I don't want to sound like I'm joking, but he probably can.
You know what I like though? I saw that Anderson Silva versus Chavez Jr. was supposed to be the main event, but apparently Anderson Silva said before the fight he's not walking out before Chavez Sr. He wants Chavez Sr. to walk out last, so that became the main event.
Like everyone's respecting his dad, just not his own son, bro.
Right.
Why did Anderson Silva have to say that? Well, why couldn't his own son say that?
Yeah, and I'm starting to see comments like Jake Paul could beat Chavez Jr. I mean, I think that's a fight they should try to make, to be honest.
Oh, man. It's just Chavez. Bro, I don't want to be funny when I say this, but I think Chavez Jr. has psychological issues. Okay? Yeah. He's doing videos, bro. Okay? Like on Instagram. By the way, he blocked me everywhere. I don't know. I think he saw my videos, bro. Chavez Jr. blocked me on Instagram and on Twitter, bro. Like this is crazy, bro. He blocked E-Style Boxing, bro. I'm blocked. Okay? But like I'm just keeping it real with the guy, bro. Like Calix, I have to be honest, man. Like I'm tired of these boxers embarrassing the sport. Like Floyd embarrassed boxing by struggling with a fucking YouTuber, okay? And then Chavez Jr. loses to Anderson Silva. Like what's next? Okay?
Do you think it's giving black boxing black eyes? Because I said a couple weeks ago and months ago that I didn't think that this would have an impact on the sport. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I'm starting to get texts from UFC fans over the weekend and stuff. I don't even know what was going on with the fight, but my brother sent me a text. My brother's a UFC MMA fan, and he's sending me a text. Oh, another black eye for boxing. Look, one of your fighters lost to old washed up Anderson Silva. So I'm starting to get these texts come over to me as well.
Well, I mean, look, just, shout out to your brother, but like a former UFC champion got knocked out in an octagon by Ray Mercer. You know what I mean? Right. So like I don't think these circus acts really have an impact on the sport. But I'm going to be honest. I feel like boxing will favor money over its own honor anytime. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, like, yes, CM Punk fought in UFC, but like they made an example out of him. Like he got embarrassed, right? They didn't put him in there with someone that he could beat, really, In boxing, like we'll play these games because the Paul brothers bring money to the sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll put him in there against dudes that like aren't that good, just to keep the circus going. And I just feel like boxing at some point needs to just make an example out of people that want to box. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's just what I think, Yeah. It's my opinion.
I agree. Not a good look. Hopefully we've seen the last of Chavez Jr., but that's just unreal to me.
Now, I will say this, though, and in all fairness and all this, look, the truth is Anderson Silva is probably the best striker in UFC history, right? I
Mhm.
mean, I don't think anyone else is close. What a prime Silva was doing was unbelievable. Now, obviously, he's older now and washed up, right, as they say. But he definitely came more like he was even talking about how he was taking it serious. He was training.
Mhm.
I don't think Chavez Jr. trained for this
No, I
fight.
don't think he trained at all. I think Anderson Silva is one of those guys who does everything 100%. He's a guy who's going to take everything seriously. So he's not a type of guy who's going to just come in here for the money. So shout out to Anderson Silva, man. He did his thing.
But look, so
Shout-
some dude out of Guadalajara that nobody knows made Chavez Jr. quit his last fight. You know what I mean? So it's not like when these UFC guys are celebrating, like, yeah, like,
Plus, D-Style, they
okay.
made a special Chavez Jr. weight, and Chavez Jr. missed the Chavez Jr. weight. He came in 2 pounds over.
He was not in shape, bro. Look, this is a guy
Another
that should
L.
fight at 160, bro.
How you miss weight for the fight? Like it should have been an easy weight for him to make, and he missed it by 2 pounds. He was like, oh well.
It's unbelievable. So I think the boxing gods punished them for coming unprepared. You know,
Yep. Martial
it
art
is. But
god.
now are we going to get Silva Roy Jones now?
Yeah, I think Roy Jones. But I saw something where Anderson Silva said that's the last fight for him. But yeah, I think Roy Jones will definitely. Is looking for any kind of
No.
avenue,
Silva says he
right?
wants to do it again, from what I
Yeah,
read.
yeah. It wouldn't surprise me to see that. And Roy looks for any kind of avenue, right, to get some
Yeah.
money, to get his name out there. So wouldn't be surprised to see that at all. My most disappointing, I'll go with Beck the Bully because I expected him to beat Gabe Rosado. In my prediction video, I said it. Gabe Rosado's a guy who does everything good, nothing great. A guy, if you're anywhere close to what they're building you up to be, you should beat Gabe Rosado. But if you're not, or if you come in there with your C game, Gabe Rosado is a guy, a savvy vet, crafty guy who's going to figure you out, and he's going to expose you if you're one of those guys who's overvalued or you don't bring your A game. And Beck the Bully fell in love with his power, opened up completely, got careless, and got caught. That was one of the nastiest knockouts I've seen in quite some time. That is the knockout of the week, knockout of the year, possibly.
I know what you mean now. I get what you mean. Like Chavez Jr. is that freaking loser that you don't expect anything from, right? So
Right.
so the expectations aren't even like remote. Like your expectation for Chavez is like just show up to the ring, right? Like,
Just make it there sober.
yeah. Like that's don't show up high and all fucking shit, right? And then this time he didn't quit, Calix. Like he quit against like a nobody last fight. This time he didn't quit. So maybe he did surpass expectations. Who knows, right?
Oh, I forgot he had to give up $100K from his own purse. I forgot about that.
That's right, bro.
That's
But
another
look,
L.
but you're right about Beck the Bully. Look, I was never sure about this guy. Like the only guy I knew of that he beat was Clay Collard. Are you familiar with Clay Collard?
Yeah, Clay Collard just fought in MMA a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So he's an MMA fighter, but he did amateur boxing, so he does both, right? So he knocked out Clay Collard. That's all I knew about Beck the Bully.
But at the same time, they were trying to get this guy in the ring with Kovalev. Like they were hell bent on getting him in the ring with Kovalev in January. Kovalev got popped for drug stuff, and then they still wanted to fight him, even knowing that.
Yeah.
So they were that ready to step this guy up. So I'm thinking in my head, watching the highlights, watching because you can tell a lot about a fighter, how his handlers handle him. So his handlers were very aggressive with moving him up now. So a guy like that, who is an aggressive fighter, should not get slept by Gabe Rosado. All right, Gabe Rosado, a crafty guy. He obviously timed him. Obviously, Beck the Bully was easy to time, but at the same time, Gabe Rosado is not a guy with a lot of power, especially at that weight. Gabe Rosado wasn't a power guy at 154, so he's not a power guy at 168. So that's a huge, huge red flag when a guy gets slept by someone who's not a big puncher, because a gatekeeper opponent, one of the checks that you want, one of the check boxes you want checked is a guy with not a lot of power, right? Because you don't want your guy, if he's not having a good night, to get slept by a big puncher, right?
Right, right.
So,
Well, here's the thing, though, Calix. Like, I think the Mayweather, and I'm not saying this is you, by the way. I just mean boxing fans in general. The Mayweather era has made it seem like the whole like, oh, there's a blueprint to beat him, or like stuff like that,
uh-huh.
has made people forget that fighters could lose and they get better. You know, and fighters can have close fights and get better because of it. And I got to be honest, right now, today, 2021, and it's not just basing it off of this fight, even his Daniel Jacobs fight. Gabriel Sado's a better fighter today than he ever has been, right? Even he's better than he was in his physical prime. He's just a better fighter today. This version of Gabriel Sado beats any other Gabriel Sado that ever existed, right? This is a veteran fighter who, if you put like, who has a lot of experience, and in this fight, experience mattered. You know,
And he looked
he
like he
knew
put
what
on
to
good
do.
weight too, right? He looked like he put on good weight.
Yeah, and then like he knew what he's like. Okay, I'm hurt to the body. You know, he knows how to survive that. Like a lot of
Mhm.
younger fighters, a younger Gabriel Rosado would have faltered right there. He would have probably been knocked out in the first round.
Yeah.
But he knew what to do to survive and just get out of that round. He gets hit and hurt. He doesn't let his ego get in the way. He's like, you know what? Let me just recover first, right? And Bake the Bully is the complete opposite of that. Like this is a guy who was coming face first, head first, and there's nothing wrong with being confident, Alex, but there's a such thing as being too confident.
Yeah, he was overconfident.
He was overconfident in his abilities and in his chin. And ain't nobody's chin that good where you could go at someone chin up in the air and not expect to get, knocked the fuck out. Ain't nobody's chin that good.
And
You know
this
what I
is
mean?
what I was gonna say too. He was timing that. You saw it when I watched the fight back. You saw him starting to time that left hand, right? And he just went shorter with it. Beck the Bully, he just loaded up on. If you watch the replay and you see the still shot right before Gabe landed that shot, he was
Yep.
wide open, and Gabe
Yep.
he turned it short. He turned it short and landed that beautiful shot. He was looking for that. He was looking for that, and that's a sign of a veteran guy, because, like you said, he was hurt to the body early. It didn't take the legs away. He bought some time. He bought some time in between the first and second round. He looked calm in the corner. He was breathing heavy, trying to get his air back, and then he started timing him. And that's not easy to do against a big puncher who's looking to take your head off. And Gabe was able to do it. He showed patience, and he landed that shot short. That was beautiful. That was a beautiful
And you
shot.
don't learn that, Calix. Like you don't. That's experience. You know what
It's
I mean?
experience of losses. Like you just said, you learn from losses, and boxing doesn't always give you the time to do that. Boxing fans don't have the patience with that, because a guy loses 13 times in a draw. You generally throw that guy away, but Gabe Rosado has earned that gate. He's like we said, he checks all the boxes of gatekeeper. All right. You look up gatekeeper in the dictionary, he's right next to it. So that's why he kept getting these shots, but he's earned those shots. I mean, he's gotten the short end of the stick on some decisions. He's fought everybody that they've thrown in front of him. He's earned these shots, and you learn from those losses, and he's learned from those losses, as you said.
Yep. Hey man, and shout out to did you see Bernard Hopkins popped out? The dude's like 55. He popped out of his seat when he saw that knockout, bro.
Yeah, he did. Both
Like
Philly
he's like
guys.
he popped out of his seat, and then De La Hoya gave like a half-hearted like, your thoughts, like, you got knocked the fuck out, bro.
Oscar's like, wait, what happened? I might have to fight Mayweather twice now. Did you see De La Hoya? He's like, I'm gonna fight this fight, then I'm gonna fight another fight, then I'm gonna fight Mayweather in the third fight. And he's expecting a big applause, and everybody's like,
I don't
oh,
know,
okay.
man. He's
Okay.
talking about tune-ups. Let me tell you something, Calix, just really quick. I don't know why Oscar De La Hoya is giving a 30-pound advantage to anybody. Okay,
Right.
like Victor Belfort, just go watch his fights. Go watch him hit the mitts. That's he's gonna outweigh De La Hoya by over 30 pounds, bro.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Oscar, I don't know what to say about that, man. I'm just glad he's not counter programming Canelo's fight, because that would have ended up bad for him anyway, but that would have been petty as well. So it
Yeah.
looks like he's going September 11th, and Canelo's probably going September 18th. So we'll see what happens with that. But I want to circle back to what we were talking about earlier with Inoue. And y'all hit that like button as you come in, getting all y'all's comments. Check out all the HCP channels. But top 5 pound for pound. Is Inoue in it for you? I'm seeing him number 2,
Like,
number 3. Where's he
I
at
don't
on
want
the
to.
pound for
I don't
pound?
want to be the Debbie Downer here, okay? And I'm going to answer your question, but let me say this first.
Uh-huh.
I don't do list. Like,
That's understandable.
I am a. This is what I believe in, Calix. I believe in the original meaning and intent of pound for pound,
Mm-hmm.
which was before there was a concept of it, right? You just had weight classes and that's it. And the best was the heavyweight champion of the world because ain't nobody going to beat him. Like a lightweight is not going to get in the ring with a heavyweight and beat him, right? That was the idea behind it. But there was a time where they saw Ray Robinson and they said that dude's the best boxer on the planet today. Can he be the heavyweight champion? No, but he's the best. Look at his skill set. Look at this guy, right? So they called him the best pound for pound boxer. Like I'm a firm believer in like there's one guy because it's already hard to pick one dude, right?
Yeah, it is.
But then to make a list, so like you have people, man, that they have these debates about no, Inoue's better than Usyk. Like, bro, they're like divisions apart, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the other thing, Calix. Like, not every division's the same. At heavyweight, you don't throw a lot of combinations like that because you'll get knocked the fuck out in the middle of a combination. Okay. In the lower weight classes, you can get hit a little more, so you see more action because you don't see as many knockouts, right? Like heavyweight power activity, right? And somewhere around here is welterweight, somewhere around here is flyweight. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just different. The dynamics of the divisions are different. Everything is just different. You know what I mean? But to answer your question, if I were to have a pound for pound list, he's got to be top 5. I don't know about top 3, maybe top 3, but he's definitely, if he's out of your top 5 and you do list, then I got to question your list, right? Is it your favorite fighters or what is it, right? Because he's got the accomplishments. He's got the offensive prowess. And he's got the, like, he has a knockout ratio of like a light heavyweight or a heavyweight, bro. You know what I mean? So, like, there's a lot there for Inoue, you know? So, and he's got the skill. So he's got to be there somewhere, right? He just has to be there.
Yeah. Remember when you and I had this pound for pound debate years ago, and you actually turned me on it because I was against pound for pound, didn't see any validity in it. But I do now, especially in a day and age when you have such a weight difference from minimum weight all the way up to heavyweights fighting 300 pounds now. I mean, you got heavyweights pushing 300 pounds. So I see value in having a list or at least having a guy that you could say, that's the guy. That's the guy in boxing. Right now, I think more people than not, I think it's universally seen right now as Canelo is the guy, pound for pound.
Yeah.
He's made it easy because he's so active in an inactive world of boxing right now. Fighting, he's going for 5 times in 12 months to fight. He's going to fight 4 times. He's trying to beat the best in his weight class. So that makes it easier. Like he's making it clean, right? These are the top guys in my weight class. This is my weight class. I'm going to try to beat them. I'm trying to become undisputed in my weight class and I'm staying active. So he's making it easy. Where I find difficulty is it's already tough enough, right? Subjective, eye test, all that stuff. You take a guy like Terrence Crawford. It's a tough thing because he doesn't have the resume that these other guys have at the top of the list. Say a Canelo, say a Inoue, say even Errol Spence Jr., who has had more access to PBC fighters in his weight class. Terrence Crawford doesn't have that resume, and he's 34 years old. So as time goes on, you say, man, I got to see this guy. Like 2 years ago, Crawford was seen. It was either Crawford or Lomachenko, right? Yep. So as time goes on, it seems like Crawford slips a little bit and slips a little bit. But the issue is how do you really judge that? Because he could be a type of guy that he's not getting the fights because his peers don't want to fight him. All right. So you can maybe push him up the rankings because of that. Or you can say he made bad business decision by staying with Top Rank. He's on Top Rank Island. He's not getting those fights. It's on him. So it's tough to rank a guy like Terrence Crawford against Canelo, right? Against a Inoue, not only for weight differences, but because of the resume. It's just a tough thing to do. It's like college football when you're ranking an SEC team against a group of 5 team. It's a tough thing to do when they're fighting much different levels of competition. Right now, I would have Canelo number 1, Inoue number 2. That's my top 2 by far. I think they've separated themselves from the rest of the boxing world, but it becomes an issue 3 to 5 for me because you can put a guy like Errol Spence Jr. there. You can put a guy like Terrence Crawford in there. You can put a guy like I don't put heavyweights on there, so I wouldn't put Usyk or Fury on there. I just don't think you put heavyweights on pound for pound list, right? That's not how I see a pound for pound list.
Yeah, a lot of people don't seem to understand why, but I explained why at the real beginning with the Robinson thing. But
right.
The heavyweight champion is already the best. Like, you don't have to do a pound for pound. You know what I mean? Like, I'm saying.
No, I agree, but I find it tough to rank these guys when it's like that. Like, how do you rank Teofimo Lopez right now? I mean, he's not going to be fighting.
But like, how do you rate it, right? Like, if you really think about it, like, it's already subjective picking one guy, but to like debate on who's number 7, like it's just not worth my energy, you know?
That's right. Like, it's almost like I say fans almost care about their favorite fighter's legacy more than their favorite fighters do. You just saw the comment, 2 guys in the same weight division ducking each other. It can't be pound for pound. Like, obviously they don't care as much about the legacy as their hardcore fans do. I was looking at BoxRec's pound for pound rankings, and this is another issue I have is BoxRec, at least they have criteria that they do not stray from. All right. So they can say it's objective. The issue with that is you become so rigid that you can't really be rigid with a pound for pound list, right? Because I prefer guys who are fighting top competition night in. I mean, fight after fight after fight. Inoue, Canelo, you already know my list, Chocolatito, Pacquiao. But the issue is you're taking a guy's whole career and putting him on a list. So Pacquiao obviously has the best resume in modern boxing history, I think, anyway. But you can't really put him on a top pound for pound list right now because he hasn't fought since 2019. And we're not taking the greatest. This isn't about the greatest. This is about the best, right? You're taking a snapshot of June 2021. You're not taking the full resume. You're taking a snapshot. Who do I think is the best fighter in the world? June 2021. There's a difference between best and greatest, right?
Who was the MVP in the NBA this year? Do you know?
The dude, the foreign dude, right? Is it Doncic?
Doncic, okay, like okay, but let's say but does that mean he's the best player in the league?
No.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that. It's like you can be the MVP, but it doesn't mean you're the best player in the league. It just means you had a better season or you're a more valuable player to your team, which is really what it means, right? Than anybody else in the league that year, you know? I mean, that's in this case, you're just, I do think there should be like if you haven't fought in a year, I've always found that strange when guys are still pound for pound list and they haven't fought in a year. Like it's like, how are you still the list? You haven't done anything.
My criteria with it is a year, but with 2021, with the shutdowns and whatnot, I would give it more leeway, right?
Yeah.
I would say you had to have at least fought in 2020 or 2021. So my criteria, you had to have fought in 2020. I also, in my criteria, if I see a robbery, this is another issue that I see in pound for pound rankings. Like I see people with Estrada top 10.
Yeah.
I just didn't see Estrada beating Chocolatito. I thought Chocolatito won the fight. So I would have Chocolatito in my top 10 as opposed to Estrada. That would just be my pound for pound rankings.
So do you remember when ESPN had how did they have it? Like they had like it was bizarre, bro. Like there was a fighter that had like number one in the division, but then like they were behind.
Right.
Like I forgot what fighter it was. I think it was either Mosley or somebody. Like in the division, they were ranked higher than the other dude, but then in pound for pound, the other dude was higher than them.
I
Like,
thought that happened with Mayweather Pacquiao too.
was it?
I thought they
Yeah.
had Pacquiao ranked higher at 147, but Mayweather higher in the pound for pound rankings. I thought I saw that as well.
That's probably what I'm thinking about. That's so stupid, bro. I mean, come on.
Yeah, so to me, you have to strike a balance between resume and you have to throw in a little subjectivity. You can't just be rigid, right? With that, you
Oh, well,
can't
the
just say
resume matters because, like, you have something to compare it to,
right.
right? Like your level of opposition matters. Like that's why resume matters. You know what I mean? The people talk about resume like it doesn't matter. Like, of course it matters. Like, or like, oh, I don't go by resume. I go by the eye test. Okay, bro, but there's a such thing as a halo effect. Like, you're gonna look amazing against guys that are not that good versus someone who's gonna make you look a little more human. You know that's why resume matters.
Yes, it is, and I generally, as you know by now, put more weight toward guys fighting tougher resumes, fighting tougher competition. However, there are differences, right? Like there are exceptions to that, and Terrence Crawford is one of them,
Yeah.
right? Like Terrence Crawford would be okay. He's not getting the fights. Obviously, I wish he would have made better business decisions, right? But at the same time, you can tell a lot by how handlers handle their fighters, but you can also tell a lot by their peers. If the peers in the division are not ready to fight this guy or not willing to fight this guy at 147, that tells me that my eye test as a fan is being verified by the peers in the division because obviously the fighters aren't willing to get in there with him. The trainer's not willing to put him in there. The manager, the promoter are not willing to put him in there with Terrence Crawford. So to me, that's a verification that what I'm seeing is correct and that this guy is one of the more talented fighters in the world. And that's how I see it with Terrence Crawford. Like that's what makes the Terrence Crawford thing difficult for me. And shout out to AHDZ. Appreciate that. That's what makes that one tough for me because there are issues like that. Like there are exceptions to the rule where a guy may want to fight tough competition, but can't get the fights.
Right. But you know what? I've never believed in like there's always someone you can fight to still validate your position, even if the top guys don't want to fight you. You know what I mean?
Or you can get creative and move up and weight. Like Paul Williams did it, right? Paul Williams couldn't get fights at 147. Paul Williams went all the way up to 160.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's stopping Terrence Crawford from going to 154, 160 for a fight and then coming back down? Maybe he doesn't want to do it, but you got to get creative at some point. And that's why I don't give him a full pass. And that's why I don't have him number one pound for pound is, like you said, there are always guys. There are always guys. And I guess he's just going to have to stick around at 147.
It's like Crawford, right? Like, look, bro, Porter's out there, brother. You know what I mean? Porter's out there. Even a Keith Thurman is out there.
Prograis has said he would move to 147 for the fight. I mean, why not that? Why not Prograis at 147? That's a good fight.
Yeah, there's always someone who could fight to validate your position, you know?
Yeah.
So
it's like the Triple G thing we were throwing out back in the day is he wasn't getting the fights at 160. He could have stepped up. And there are guys on record at 168 who still didn't want to fight him. I mean, my boy Carl Froch even said he didn't want to fight him, but there are fights out there. There are fights out there to be made if you want to make them to validate your position. That's a good point. But I would have Inoue at number 2 right now. But that can change. I mean, it's going to be tough to up. It's going to be tough to up Canelo right now, especially if he comes undisputed. But Inoue has a shot. He's possibly one fight away from undisputed at 118 in his own right.
You know,
and let's see where it's at a year from now.
Now, I'm not saying I would put him ahead of Inoue. I don't know, but someone that needs to be considered that is rarely talked about, in my opinion, in a way, is Charlo. You know,
yeah.
And this is someone who's about to become undisputed in his weight class. Okay, he is um, obviously talented. I think he's the better of the two Charlos, in my opinion. Um, but and then also, what about Taylor?
Yeah,
I mean, you
and that's why
gotta
I was throwing
consider
out
Taylor. You know?
Tiafimo. Is do you drop Tiafimo right now and put Taylor ahead of Tiafimo?
Well,
Since
here's the thing though, like you got to consider Teofimo too. I mean, he beat a guy who most people had Calix one or
number
two in
one.
Lomachenko, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
then he knocked out Comey, destroyed Magdaleno. He has a win over Nakatani. That I mean, and we're talking recent stuff. So I mean, that's someone you got to consider too. Now, do you put Tater ahead of him? It's hard to say. You know, what I mean, I don't think Tater has a better win than Lomachenko though. You know,
Yeah.
so
And I always throw out the college football rankings because that's the closest thing to pound for pound to
I'm
me.
glad you
Is
mentioned right.
a lot of it's subjective, and a lot of it is who had the last big win skyrockets up the rankings, and that's why Josh Taylor is getting some love.
That's why
At like
resume
5, 6.
matters.
Resume matters. That's right.
Resume matters. I remember the Miners were like 5-0 in college football. This was like years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a winless team from a bigger conference came over and destroyed the Miners. You know what I mean?
And they got
Like,
bounced.
yeah. So like, but the Miners had a winning record though. Those guys hadn't won a game. Yeah, but they were losing to like Ole Miss. Like, you know what I mean? Like they were losing to LSU or teams like that. Like I forgot who the team was, but resume matters. You know,
Resume matters. And the fact that he beat Prograis and then beat Taylor to become undisputed. He's up there, man. He's up there, top 6, 7, somewhere in there. So, and yes, the Frotch versus Calzaghe debate
beat Prograis. He beat him.
Yeah, beat Prograis. Right, right. So this did happen, by the way, and I believe I beat him, but I think it was a draw, right? Over on the HCP channel, we have Frotch versus Calzaghe debate. It was a draw. Over on G Funky's channel, that was.
Yeah,
so you can go back. You can go back and watch. Go on G Funky's channel and watch it. It was about a month ago, right? Month and a half.
Yep. It was the pre-show to the Canelo fight. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So top 5 pound for pound right now, I would have Canelo, Inoue. Number 3, it gets tough for me right now. I would have probably Errol Spence Jr. Probably Errol Spence.
That's another guy.
Yeah. Look out for Pacquiao against Errol Spence Jr. because if Pacquiao beats Errol Spence Jr., he skyrockets back into the
he's number 1 pound for pound if he beats Errol Spence.
Yeah, number 1. You think?
Yeah,
that's a.
You got to give him number 1. I mean, it would depend how he wins, obviously, right? But
yeah,
like if he has a spectacular performance against Errol Spence, when no one is really, like, you know what I mean? He's the big underdog and he does that. And you add that with he hasn't fought since 2019, but it was against Keith Thurman, right? An undefeated fighter. And then you add that, like, you know, it's a lot of his older, you know, resume, but it's still like a thing, you know. He's probably number 1.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't debate against you on that. I mean,
I don't know if that's how I'm going to feel like a month after the fight, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll see. That's in August. Tank Davis is fighting this weekend. Now, we're not going to talk about the fights because we got a lot of content coming up this week. I'm going to be dropping my prediction videos during the week. You're going to be on your podcast this week. We're going to have plenty of conversations about the fights coming up this weekend. You got Tank versus Barrios. A fight I love is Lubin versus Rosario, and I also like Lomachenko versus Nakatani because Nakatani's tricky. He's tricky. That's a tough fight coming off of a loss, D-Style. That's a tough fight coming off of
the Japanese fighters, bro, they're summarized, bro. That's what he is, man. He doesn't quit. He doesn't stop coming, bro. You know? Yeah. And you know, you see those movies of the samurais, like I'm willing to die. Like I kind of believe in Nakatani. You know what I mean? I think that dude's willing to die, which makes him dangerous. And
these dudes are tough.
But man, sometimes the liver makes a decision for you. It doesn't give you the option. And I think Loma's going to attack the body, bro. It's a long torso, and the fight, like the fight, people need to watch on the lead up to this one. Watch Campbell against Lomachenko, right? Mm-hmm. Watch how he breaks him down to the body and makes him take a knee. You know what I mean? That wasn't like that one big shot like Ryan Garcia landed. It was a systematic breakdown. And I honestly believe that Campbell has slightly better footwork than a Nakatani and is more of a pure boxer. Nakatani is it's going to be a little harder against a Campbell. I think Nakatani's style and his aggressiveness is going to be used against him in this fight.
One thing, and I just want to hit on this real quick and get your opinion on it. We're not going to go too in depth. Is, do you worry about one flaw that Lomachenko has shown recently to me is he can start slow in fights, especially when he can't figure out a guy early, or if a guy is a little bit aggressive early.
Tell me, it's a glitch in the matrix.
Yeah, it could be. Jorge Linares, Teofimo, they were not intimidated by Lomachenko early in the fight. They came out a little aggressive, and he started slow in those two fights. Is that something you worry about with Lomachenko moving forward in his career? Could that be the big weakness that he has?
Yeah. Shout out to Mr. Boxing today too, by the way. I think Nakatani did hurt his Roberto bone against Teofimo and finished that fight. But look, I think this is true about anyone, bro. Like, the guys that gave Mayweather his toughest fights were the guys that didn't give a fuck and were like, I didn't get the memo. I'm not here to admire you as a boxer. I'm coming to win. Maidana, who's nowhere near the talent that Canelo was back then. Like, we all agree Canelo's improved, right? But even then, Canelo was a superior fighter than Maidana ever was, right? Yet Maidana gave Mayweather a better fight.
Right.
Because he didn't give a fuck, and he just went for broke, and he went for it. He showed out, right? I think that's what a lot of these guys are doing with Loma, like, because you're right, like it's like, I'm not going to just be intimidated by your presence or the matrix. Like, I'm coming. If you make me miss my first 5 punches, guess what? I'm going to throw 6th one, you know. And I think that's what that was, you know. I think Linares wasn't intimidated. I don't think, like, you know, so the aura of Lomachenko is gone, you know, and I think that's
back. He has to earn it back.
He needs to earn it back, and I don't think Nakatani, in fairness to him, is not going to give a shit about his aura and his accomplishments and his 2 gold medals. And Nakatani's coming to take his head off. He's going to come with a jab, of course. That's one thing that Nakatani does have. He has a really good jab, but he overextends with the jab a little bit. I think Loma's going to slip the jab, come inside, work that long torso. He's going to pivot out of the way. He's going to style on him all night. I think that's what's going to happen. The body is the key thing. I think he's going to stop him late, okay? But it's not going to come down through the aura or anything like that, because I think that's gone. He's going to have to just beat him down, you know, and I think that's what's going to happen here.
Yeah. And we should be forgiving of fighters who take an L fighting the best. And Lomachenko and Teofimo did get it on when a lot of fighters were sitting back during the shutdown. So you got to give both of them props for that. Lomachenko has shown that he wants to get in there with guys. He has shown that he is a guy who cares about legacy. So I give him the benefit of the doubt on this comeback. And let's see if he can earn it back. Let's see if he can get back into these top pound-for-pound ranking conversations. And I think they want to make the Teofimo versus Lomachenko 2 fight. I don't know if it's going to happen October 2nd, but I think that's the fight they want to make. So he's going to have an opportunity. He's going to have an opportunity to do it. So we'll see if we were right about Lomachenko a year or 2 ago, or if he was overvalued. We're going to find out, or if it's somewhere in between. But
Loma's got to win this fight, brother.
He does.
He's got to win this fight. This is not.
It's must win. It's must win.
It's a must win. It's a comeback fight. I think he's going to look spectacular in this fight. I really do. And that's what I'm expecting. Outside of some freak accident, him like breaking his hand or something, or his ankle getting fucked up in the middle of the fight, outside of something like that, he should win this fight.
I think so too. And we'll talk about that more during the week. But I'm definitely looking more forward to this weekend than the past weekend. I think you have more even matchups and more entertaining matchups as well. Tank Davis versus Barrios. Lubin versus Rosario is a hell of a fight on paper. And then Lomachenko versus Nakatani should be entertaining as well. But I wanted to touch. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, Tank Davis, you know, he's doing a great job dominating Conference USA. You know what I mean? Like
that's what I wanted to get at. Great segue is belts gone wild. All right. Yeah. We just witnessed Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez fight for all the belts that matter at 140. Undisputed. What undisputed means is we cannot dispute it. All the belts that matter are in Josh Taylor's trophy case. He is the champion, the only champion that matters at 140. He's got all four. All right. Each of the four, the top four that are recognized, have a belt that they recognize as the belt.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. Am I on it so far? Okay. Absolutely. So how in the hell are they promoting this fight as a championship fight? How is the WBA promoting this fight as a championship fight? How does this guy keep getting the baby belts? He has one at 130, 135, 140. He's going to call himself a 3-division champion now, D-Style, if he wins this fight. 3-division champion, yet he doesn't have a real championship.
Look, I hate to bring it to people, but this guy has not won a real title, 135 or 140. The worst part is that his people are comparing him to what Floyd did at 130, 135, 140. Not even close, bro. Okay? Not even close.
And the saddest thing, D-Style, is you and I'm sure, I don't want to speak for you, me, I like him. This guy's a hell of he's a talented fighter. I think his power translates to 140. I think it will translate to 140. I saw Buddy McGirt interview he was given earlier. He thinks his power can translate up to 147. However, it could be the eye test deceiving us. He's 8 years in, hasn't really stepped up and beat elite opposition yet. Yeah. But the eye test, it does check out. Like, this guy does look elite. But that's the thing. Like, as a detractor, you have the Tank Davis fanboys get mad at you when you say this stuff, but I obviously have more confidence in him than they do because I want to see him in there with the top guys at 135. Like, he skipped over that whole division. What happened to Devin Haney? What happened to a fight with Lomachenko? What happened to a fight with Teofimo Lopez?
Calix, aren't you getting flashbacks of another fighter?
Who do you have in mind? Are we talking about Adrian Broner?
Yes.
Yeah, same thing. Paulie Malignaggi at 147, right? 140, 135. Same stuff was happening with Broner.
He skipped 140 completely and went after a weak link champion, right? Mm-hmm. And then but we were all kind of buying it, and then Maidana just went out there and like mugged them, bro, in front of the world. You know what I mean? Like, Maidana was like, yo, like, it's kind of like, it's like if he beat him up like he broke into his home or something, you know?
Isn't it amazing, though, how boxing experts can get it so wrong? Because I dropped videos about this. Mm-hmm. Terrence Crawford and Adrian Broner were coming up at the same time. Same age, same career arc. Mm-hmm. And everybody was paying attention to Broner. Everybody had Broner on the pound-for-pound list and were completely ignoring Terrence Crawford. Amazing.
Yeah, they went with the loudmouth over the quiet assassin. You know, it's the way it is, you know, so.
But they keep feeding this guy the baby belts. And it's frustrating because I think he has a lot more talent than Adrian Broner did. I never was that high on Broner, although he did have attributes that you were like, okay. And he was a killer in the lower weight classes. I mean, he was weight bullying these guys, but he was destroying them at the same time. So,
I mean, he's winning the 5th place bowl game. You know, that's what he's doing. You know, like that's essentially what we're seeing out of this right now. You know what I mean?
I'm seeing people give Barrios a good shot. However,
I mean,
what keeps me away from that is, without going too far into the fight, is they're cut from the Mayweather Promotions is cut from the Sun Tzu Art of War book. Is you put yourself beyond defeat before you step in the ring with somebody.
Right.
And I think they sized up Barrios, and maybe they got it wrong. Who knows? Maybe we'll find out that they got it wrong. But I think they saw something that from a mile away that they could exploit, and said, okay, let's get our guy a belt at 140. And I think the plan the whole time is let's get a belt at 140, promote ourselves as a 140 champion and try to make a pay-per-view with Adrian Broner at 140. I really think that's what they're trying to do. And I've been on record as far as that. But I think they see something with Barrios that they can exploit. I think they're trying to put Tank beyond defeat before he even gets in the ring. Low risk, high reward. So they see something in Barrios. Hopefully I'm wrong, and this is an interesting fight. But I think they see something, and I think that Tank's going to get him out of there. He does have power that translates, man, and he is a talented fighter. I just wanted to see him campaign at 135 against those Sharks. And if you're going to stay at 140, you're going to call yourself a champion, guess what? Try to fight Josh Taylor. Try to fight Regis Prograis. Try to fight Jose Ramirez. All right, fight the top guys at 140. All right, stay there and campaign at that weight against the top guys. But that's not what's going to happen. We already know that.
Yeah.
We know he's going to get to 140, get a belt. He might drop back down to 135 if somebody challenges him to 140, beat another guy there. But I just don't see them progressing with his career. Maybe they even go to 147 and pick off a small champion there. That seems to be the plan, right? But this belt's going wild thing, man. Like this is not a real belt, D-Style. This is not a real trinket. This is the trinket is what it is. It's not a real belt. Josh Taylor is undisputed. He has the belts that matter. The only belts that matter, he's got them. This is not a championship fight, D-Style. It's not a championship fight.
Nope. It's not. You're right.
Brutal. But at least, hopefully, we get a good fight out of it. Tank versus Barrios. And it's a good weekend of boxing. Very good weekend of boxing coming up. And we'll be dropping a lot of content on our channels about these fights coming up. I'll have my prediction video starting tomorrow. You're going to have all your content up this week. So start plugging all your stuff, man. What you got going on this week?
Hey, guys. First of all, thanks for everybody that tuned in. Starting next week, man, Power Punches will be on Wednesdays after Women Crushing It Wednesdays, either after their first hour or after the show, whenever it is. But we'll have a set time for that and all that. But with that said, tomorrow, ATP podcast, all that good stuff. So everyone tune in tomorrow on my channel. Subscribe if you're not already. D-Style Boxing.
That's right. Hit up that whole HCP crew. Hit up G-Funky as well. The two pioneers of the whole thing, the whole HCP network, man. And I'm glad to be a part of it. Subscribe to my channel, obviously. Catch everything in the archive. You got a lot of archive stuff going on right now. Go to the channel, pick through all the videos, archive everything. If you're archiving this, hit us up in the comment section.
I have the video up right now. You guys want to go check it out? When we had Russ Amaron, who was the cut man of Lomachenko, we talked about the Nakatani fight. That's up there right now. You guys can go check that out. I cut out the clip. It's about 12 minutes long or so. So have a good one, everybody.
Yep. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate everybody who left comments and hit that like button. We are out, man. God bless. See y'all tomorrow on D-Styles channel. Peace.